Tactical is one of the most versatile classes in all of Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. You can do everything from range, you're very good in melee, and you have the capability to support your team with an amazing Auspex scan. In this video today, I'm going to give you my build for my Tactical that I've been using and getting a lot of fun out of. One thing that's different here than the Bulwark is I don't have a set build. I have a build that's dependent upon how I play the game. So my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my videos, here's the entire perk tree that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to bring you through the first 7 levels, talking about just the top row, then the next 7 levels after that, and then the next 7 levels after that, so you can get a sense for how the progression of perks unravels itself for the Tactical. But if all you wanted to know is this perk tree, you can go ahead and just take a look at this, boot the game up, and kind of make a one-to-one. I will say here, I have a variance here. Battle Focus is what I'm going to use if I'm not playing with friends. If I am playing with friends, I would just simply choose Precise Calibration. And for my signature, I would use Radiating Impact if I like to do more melee combat. If I like to stay more at range and shoot, then I would do Marked for Death. That's the only difference here in your perk choices. But if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get back to enjoying your time as a Tactical in Space Marine 2. But before you head out, if this video ends up helping you, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. Also, if you've not yet picked up Space Marine 2, you can use my Fanatical link, which has a 12% discount, and I get an 8% commission, and it helps my mini Australian Shepherd get tons of toys because he's got a treat addiction or whatever the hell it is. But as always here, let's get started on my ultimate guide to the Tactical in Space Marine 2. So to start us off, let's go through the first 7 levels as a Tactical. To start 2, though, let's go over what our innate ability is. Our starting perk as a Tactical is any unequipped range weapon reloads automatically after 10 seconds, a huge boon. This just keeps you constantly kind of topped off on your ammo as far as not being having an empty clip when you switch to melee or whatever it is. Also, the big thing here is our Auspex scan. Scanning reveals and marks enemies in the selected area for 8 seconds, making them more vulnerable. Now, we don't know what this percentage of damage is. It could be a 50%, it could be a 75%. It seems to be somewhere in there as far as the additional damage that it's going to help deal out to you, or I'm sorry, the additional damage that it gives you when you shoot things. So our first 8 levels, not 7, sorry. We're going to start off here with balanced distribution. Your primary weapon deals 10% more damage, but your secondary 10% less. This is okay to have in the beginning. It's great here. It's not going to be too big of a difference, but if you want to spend the points on it, you can. You'll switch off of this the second you get to the next level. After this here, we have Heightened Vigor. After a perfectly timed dodge, you do not lose control upon taking heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 5 seconds. Again, this is a nice one here because you will be doing quite a bit of dodging. Your character has the capability to be quite good in melee. So don't be afraid to get up close and personal, get in that cookie jar. You've got a bolt pistol, you've got a chainsword, have some fun with it. And our next one here is after a finisher, the equipped ranged weapon reloads automatically. I keep this one on all the way until I unlock this one down here. And a finisher is a gun strike. So if you were to perfect dodge and you get a gun strike, perfect parry and you get a gun strike, you do whatever situation that creates a perfect a gun strike, this is going to instantly reload your ranged weapon that you have equipped. So it's quite awesome. I like this one a lot, and you're going to use it quite a bit. Our first team ability here is Communion of Fire. Recoil is reduced by 20% for all squad members. This is not the same as accuracy. Accuracy is a reduction to recoil and to spread. This will only reduce your recoil. You can get it. You're going to swap off of it. It's there. Use it if you wish. Most of all, the recoil in this game is very controllable. It's not completely wild. So just kind of keep that in mind. Next one here. Oh, one thing too with Final Shot. I don't think I said this properly. After a finisher, Gunstrike has to finish them. It's got to kill them. But a gun strike that kills does count as a finisher, just to be sure on that. Shout out to Will for making that reference because I'm recording this live while streaming. But hey, we're going to move on. Vital data here is going to give us scanning an extremis or terminus level enemy restores Auspex scans charged by 50%. You could skip this and be totally fine. But picking it up initially is good because you're going to swap off of it once you get away from, once you get all the way down here. But this is going to be quite a bit of levels away, right? So what's important to know is that for Extremis and Terminus level, Terminus is going to be anything that's got a health bar, right? So your Carnifex, your Neurothrope, your Hellbrute. And Extremis is going to be your Ravener, your Lictor, your... not Xenothrope. Yeah, Xenothrope. That's the Extremist one. Your Scarab Occultist, your lesser Space Wizard, the Sorcerer. So you've got all those that are going to benefit from this. It's just not very often that you're going to use it. So we'd move off of it once we get to the next one, which is going to give us far more damage threshold. So Battle Focus is another amazing perk here, and you're going to hold on to this one all the way until level 23. I said Xenothrope, I meant Zonethrope. And with Battle Focus here, it's a perfectly timed parry, gives the parried enemy a mark from the Auspex scan. That is hugely strong. This is one that is really great when you're queuing up solo, you're not playing with friends, that can really do concerted team fire. It's great to just have that ability to turn on an Auspex without the actual scan needed. So this is going to be great when you're going to be parrying a lot of the big scary things in this game. It's an amazing perk. Next one, though, is Close Targeting. When Auspex Scan is in cooldown, melee damage increases by 50% against Minoris enemies. This is just your Zangors, your Cultists, your Gaunts. So this is a good one, but we're going to move off of it as well. Then our first signature here is enemies marked by Auspex Scan cannot call for reinforcements. This is actually really good, but it's unique in that the Tactical has two really good and a decent signature talent. Majority of all the other classes don't have amazing signature perks. The Tactical does. So you're going to take this for now because it is very advantageous, especially as you're pushing the higher difficulties, which you're going to do all the way up until this level right here, which is 16 or whatever this is. Yeah, whatever that is. You're going to be pushing higher difficulties. This at least shuts off reinforcements so you don't have to deal with it if they are marked by your Auspex. So those are first 8 levels. Let's now go into our next 8 levels. So our next set of perks, starting at level 9 here, is going to unlock Plasma Boost. So if you want to use the Plasma Incinerator, this is the time to use it. Because when the Plasma Incinerator is 50% overheated, which is going to be quite common, you're going to get an increase to the damage by 30%. If you don't have any intention of using the Plasma Incinerator at all, I'm sorry, the Plasma Gun. No, it's Incinerator. Then just skip this perk. Don't take it. There's no reason to take it because it's only going to work for that weapon. Or hold off until you want to level it up, then take it. So there's no reason to switch away from your level 1 perk here. And to level 10, we have Relentless Pursuit. After a gun strike, range damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. I like this one over our Heightened Vigor because while it's cool to have the ability to not get knocked over, I'd rather get a gun strike, which is very easy to do. We do a dodge melee attack, we open up a gun strike. It doesn't need to kill them like the finisher does here for Final Shot, right? It just needs to do the gun strike. Perfect dodge, gun strike. Perfect parry, gun strike. Now my range damage is increased by 25% for 5 seconds. I can then bring that into an Auspex scan, however I want to chain those things together. It is a lot of value here. Our next one is Steady Aim. Recoil is reduced by 10%. It's just not worth it for me. A 10% reduction in recoil, it's just not as good as being able to just straight up reload a weapon. No, thank you. Hard pass. And 10% is such a small amount anyway that I'm just not going to be getting much of a benefit from it. Our next one, though, is the team ability we're going to stick with. And I apologize. This was supposed to be selected in the overall shot of the perks. I messed this up. But Aligned Aim here is range damage increased by 5% for all squad members. It's our just general team talent. It's an absolutely amazing one. We're going to lock here. We're not going to move from it for the rest of our time. And speaking of, this is the point when you as Tactical, you're already strong, but you're going to start to hit a good ramp. With priority targeting here, the mark from Auspex scan lasts 8 seconds longer, but the scan now ignores Minoris enemies. Who cares? Almost all difficulty levels, Minoris enemies are, well, they're minor. And if you're going to be using the bolt rifle, which is the weapon I always recommend, you have a grenade launcher attacked to the bottom of it. You're going to blow things up with one go. You don't need the damage spike on the Minoris. Then there's no Minoris that are going to get the benefit of Auspex scan as far as their visibility, like it would help with like a Lictor or something like that. So priority targeting is the way to go. You're doubling the amount of time you can do max damage to the targets that matter. After this, we've got improved efficiency. Scanning 20 enemies with one Auspex scan restores equipment charge by 1. I don't care. That just means that I get another grenade back. I get a Melta bomb back, a crack grenade back. And 20 enemies is quite a lot. You'd have to basically scan a whole entire wave to get the efficiency out of this. Even though it's called improved efficiency, it is not efficient. So we're going to skip this one entirely. Don't even waste the points. Expert timing here. This is the real one that kind of gives you tons of damage potential. Enemies marked by Auspex scan take an additional 100% damage, but the mark's duration is reduced by 4 seconds. The base is 8. We doubled it from 8 to 16. We removed 4. We still have a longer scan than the default scan at 12 seconds, but now we do 100% additional damage with our Auspex scan. So if Auspex scan does a base 50, we don't know what that base is. Now it's 150. Or if it's a base 70, now it's 175. So a ton of utility comes out here. So it's a really, really good perk for our gear selection. Now into our signature, we have the first of our dealer's choice signature abilities here. We've got Radiating Impact. So a melee finisher additionally deals significant area of effect damage. Cooldown is a 90 seconds. So it does have a 1.5-minute cooldown, but when you're in a dire situation, when you are dealing with getting a melee finisher off and a quick execute, it's nice here because this does a pretty sizable AoE little bomb. I don't know if this is 100% correct, but it feels like it does about the same amount of damage as a frag grenade, which that's great. To on every 90 seconds be able to execute with a frag grenade, that's a great tack on. So I think that is such an awesome capability here to just be able to get some AoE damage if I'm jumping into melee. It gives me a little bit of breathing room so I can actually get in and out of those situations. But that's our next set of 8. Let's jump down and see where we're going to go from here. So for our final set of perks, we have actually a lot of ones that we're going to be skipping. So we're going to jump into our final 8 levels here. And we're going to start off with Kraken Penetrator rounds. Bolt weapons penetrate 1 more enemy. Since I primarily use the bolt rifle, like I've said before, I'm going to focus on this. There's only 2 weapons that don't use those bolt rifle penetrations here anyway, and that's the Plasma Incinerator and the Melta rifle. So you might as well take advantage of this, get the additional bolt weapon penetration, because this isn't huge. Yeah, sure, your primary weapon's going to do 10%, your secondary does 10% less, but I'd rather penetrate, and I know what I just said, rather than just get a small damage bonus. I'd rather carry damage into the thing behind it if I possibly can. After that, though, we have got versatility. After switching weapons, your secondary weapon does 20% more damage. The effect lasts until reloading or switching back to your primary weapon. I bypass this one. I think that if you really want to focus on swapping back and forth to your primary and secondary, I think this is probably better used if you're using a Plasma Incinerator as your main, because maybe you don't want to burn through it, or your Melta as your main. But for me personally, I just like the gun strike leading to a 25% damage bonus. I think that just is a better overall bonus, especially when I'm playing in a higher difficulty, when that damage bonus is going to be the means of killing a Majoris enemy faster. Next up, we have Emperor's Vengeance. This is going to take over for our top tier perk, or the top perk above. Killing a Majoris level or higher enemy restores your primary weapon's ammo by 1 magazine. Not by 1 bullet, by 1 whole mag. Cannot exceed max ammo capacity. Cooldown is 30 seconds. So basically, every 30 seconds, getting an execute on a Tyranid Warrior or a Rubric Marine or higher gets you a whole magazine back. It makes sure that you constantly have ammo the entire time for a class that is constantly shooting. It is one of the other big things that gives you a bit of a power spike because you're constantly having ammo on board. Next up, we have Transhuman Physiology. All squad members restore 30% more contested health. That's not my concern too much. I want instead more range damage. And contested health, recovering 30% more isn't that big of a boon when contested health can be abused in a lot of other ways through other classes. So I skipped this one entirely. I just want that range damage. Target lock. Enemies marked by Auspex scan take 25% more equipment damage. This is very situational. If I'm playing Decapitation, what's cool here is you can use this and use a crack grenade or a Melta bomb, and that does 25% more damage. But skip that. Let's go to the next one. I'd rather just take the flat increase to the Auspex scan duration. That's overall a better perk than this. It's just not, it doesn't fit enough for it to be worth it. Now next, we have precise calibration, and this is the final kind of big power spike for tactical. Enemies marked by Auspex scan take an additional 75% damage, but Auspex scan's radius is reduced by 25%. Since you're more often than not using Auspex scan as a specific target intention rather than a whole entire net, this thing gives you so much damage. So let's take a look back at this perk. If we're saying that the base Auspex scan damage bonus is 50 to 75%, somewhere in there, we don't know, this puts us to 150 to 175. This brings us up to 225 to 250 additional damage. That is huge. So this, though, really depends on what you're going to be doing. Are you playing with friends? Are you guys going on comms? Can you say, hey, I'm about to Auspex, let's focus this thing down, boom, do this. It's just such a huge benefit. Even if you're kind of playing on your own, there's a lot of benefit there, but it's so much extra damage being pumped in, and it's a huge value. If you're playing on your own, I would say just go with battle focus so that you can constantly have Auspex scan out, because you're not reliably going to be able to deliver team damage to targets unless you're using comms with people. So that's a dealer's choice right there. It's the only one I really think is up to you. Next one here is concentrated fire. Enemies marked by Auspex scan take an additional 100% damage, but they lose the mark when they leave the scanned area. That is terrible. I don't want anything to do with that. Yeah, I could stack it up and really get a lot more damage out of it, but like, it's really easy to move out of that area. Most things jump laterally or jump towards you. It's not going to be worth it, right? If I go ahead and put this on Decapitation and the Hive Tyrant, she's just going to jump out of that the second she can. Or you put it on a bunch of warriors, the warriors jump laterally, boom, they're out of it. So it doesn't give me enough long-term staying power to be worth it. And the last dealer's choice perk is Marked for Death. So if you don't like playing up in melee as much, then Radiating Impact is not going to make as much sense for you as Marked for Death. A headshot will instantly kill a Majoris or Extremis level enemy marked by an Auspex scan. The cooldown is 2 minutes, but this will work on a gun strike. So if you perfect parry a Lictor or Ravener, yeah, these Raveners are just popping off with all sorts of cool drugs. The Ravener, the Lictor, or the what's it called? The Chaos ones, then you instantly kill it. That is so good. You gun strike right into it, it's dead. Or just a normal headshot. But still, my point remains, being able to use this on a Majoris or an Extremis level to just give you tons of ways to kill fast is really, really nice. Unfortunately, you can't determine whether or not it's used. So a lot of the time you might be using it on a Majoris level on accident until you actually want to use it on a certain thing. But killing a Terminator is going to be really easy with Marked for Death, because you mark it with the Auspex scan and boom, headshot, it's dead. Gun strike, it's dead. Easy kill on all the things that can really mess up your runs when you're running on Ruthless. Definitely recommend it. But again, use this however you're going to play the character is what it's going to determine what makes the most sense for you. So moving into our weapons, let's start with a melee weapon in the Chainsword. And we're going to talk about the melee weapon, and then we're going to talk about the secondary, and then we'll go into the primary because there's a ton of them, right? So with the Chainsword, we don't have any other options. It's the only one. And I'm going to kind of go through the list right here of the ones that I'm going to choose in each tier. Then we'll go through the perk tree. So the first one here is, of course, balance. We don't have any choice. Then we jump into another balance one here. I don't recommend the block one because it's a block one. And that's never going to be a call for me. It's always going to be balance, because block just reduces so much effectiveness in the game for what? More cleaving potential? Hard pass. And to Artificer, we have balance as an option. We have fencing as an option, and then we have block as an option. This depends really on your capabilities as a player. Are you comfortable with balance? I think the -2 speed on this is not a huge sacrifice. Go with the 2 speed and just have an 11 damage weapon that does fencing. You'll just be able to pop off tons of perfect parries at a great rate. Yeah, sure, this is going to attack faster, and that faster attack can lead to some other things, different animations, getting through those animations faster so you're not locked into them. Those are all great things, but I think at Artificer, I'm going to want instead, give me a cool one. Can I get a cool one, please? Thank you. I'm going to instead want a fencing weapon here to just push me through. It's just an overall better weapon, and it's got great damage here. Now, onto our Relic one. We have a balance one that's going to be 1 speed with 15 strength. I don't recommend it. It's very painfully slow. I don't recommend the block one. The only real option is the fencing one. And it's like one of the coolest looking ones. It's got a good speed of 4.5. It's got a great strength. This is the way to go with your relic weapon, Chainsword. Now for the perk tree here, here's what I have set up. What I would tell you to do is do the entire top row until you get to this. After performing a stomp, hold the attack button to perform an additional stomp. And rather than using your last 2 perk points to put them here and here, just put them into this one for more overall melee damage, and put them into this one for melee damage against Tyranid enemies increased by 10%. Let me just say this too. I'll go through these initial ones. When you have full armor, melee damage is increased by 10%. We're using that just to get to the next one. Enemies hit by stomp deal 30% less damage for 4 seconds. So there's that one. And then we have perpetual strength, melee damage in 5%. So these two stack up. And this one, stomp area of effect radius increased by 50%. So we've really leaned into the direction of stomp for this top row of perks for the Chainsword. So now stomp, when we hold it down, we get an additional stomp. The radius on the stomp is increased by 50%, and enemies hit by stomp deal less damage to me. It's just a really good value train you get out of that stomp capability. Melee damage against enemies, chaos enemies is increased by 10%, and when performing a light combo, you take 15% less range damage, which is actually really nice for your durability. The other one here is full throttle. That makes it so that you can charge up the sword. But I think in a ruthless scenario, like a ruthless difficulty, I'm going to find I'm going to use this far less than the other one, which gives me the ability to knock things away, gives me some strength, or gives me some breathing room, and allows me to get a better kind of, allows me to reframe the engagement better. That's my personal opinion. I think that this one, this one just locks me into the animation for too much in a scenario where my character's strength isn't melee damage. Maybe this is better on an assault or a bulwark, but my strength is in range damage, so I don't find as much of a use here. So this is our melee weapon. Let's go over to our bolt pistol. Moving over to our bolt pistol, this one's going to be pretty easy to go with because the bolt pistol, it just doesn't do a lot of astounding amounts of damage anyway. We're just going to keep choosing every variant as we move from throughout the tiers from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th to just maximize our ammo. It's pretty easy here. So not this one because it has a little more accuracy, sure, but we just want more ammo in that clip, or that magazine, sorry. Here we're going to not choose that one, this one. This is going to go from 12 to 14 to 16. And then in the last relic tier, we're just going to go to the 18 ammo. It's the best way because you're not using this to outpour tons of damage. You're using this just to get shots on targets, little things here and there. And remember, you can do gun strikes without any ammo. You can be completely depleted and still do gun strikes because, you know, the magic of the 40k rule, the cool universe. But those are our variants. You can choose by all means if you want. Go with the higher accuracy one, but I just don't want to have the same ammo that I had when I started for 3 more accuracy in a weapon that doesn't have the staying power that I want accuracy on. And I've started to really refocus my look at ammo versus accuracy. I'd rather have higher value shots, but at the same time, this is not going to do enough damage for me to really care about the value of each shot so much as just being able to pour more shots onto a target. So I find that to be a bigger advantage here. For our perk tree, we're going to take kind of a wonky route here. I like this first one for spread reduction. To get into this one for after perfectly timed dodge, max spread decreased by 25%. It's not that I want these two, it's that I want this perk. After a gun strike, the equipped weapon instantly reloads. So you can actually you can take this perk and it frees up this. After a finisher, the equipped weapon, range weapon reloads automatically. So this can apply to your bolt pistol, right? So you can have it, the other one, this, applies to your bolt pistol. So you've got that other perk basically locks it into this bolt pistol permanently. So I like this perk. I think it's very fun. After a gun strike, recoil is reduced by 35% as well. And damage is increased by 10%. I really am just going back down to this route for magazine increase by 15% of magazine, of maximum. When your health is below 30%, killing 10 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 5%. And lastly, magazine size increase. I'm not looking for the bolt pistol to carry me here, right? I'm looking for it to have some good utility. And magazine size and Gunstrike are the utility I want from it because I'm using it for my Gunstrikes. That's the primary reason that I've got it, right? So that's how I have all this lined up for our perk tree. You can go the other route, but I don't think after killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots deal 50% more damage. It's only for this weapon. If that was a general 50% more damage, that would be stupid good, right? But I'm not going to be getting too much value out of it. It does mean that for 5 more seconds, gun strikes, which are headshots, will do 50% more damage. That's something to factor in, but I'd rather just go down here and do this one for a little bit of health restore. Let's jump now to our primary. So now it's the big one. It's our primary weapon. And what we're going to talk about here with the primary weapon is my top 3. There's lots of them. And honestly, there's no wrong choice. Choose the one you're having the most fun with. I'm going to tell you about the bolt rifle, the plasma incinerator, and the Melta rifle, because all 3 of them are very good. I enjoy them. I actually have practical application and knowledge of them. I've never used the auto bolter rifle once. I think I switched into it in a mission and then switched off of it the second I could. I've got 0 experience on this build, at least. I didn't really like the heavy bolt rifle, and I've used it a couple times. I didn't really like the stalker bolt rifle for this class. I love these types of weapons. So I do know, though, that like a lot of people use the heavy bolt rifle and they love it. If you like it, then please use it and enjoy it. You'll have more knowledge on it than I will, clearly, as you can see below. But I'm going to talk about, again, the bolt rifle, the incinerator, and the Melta rifle. And we're going to start here with the bolt rifle. It's my favorite weapon. It's the one I always recommend. And the reason behind that is our first variant is just a standard bolt rifle. It's kind of weak. It doesn't really do much. But once we jump into Mastercrafted, we get this. Now our bolt rifle has a grenade launcher. And those 7 grenades are the exact same thing as launching a frag grenade. Well, like maybe a slightly weaker frag grenade, but it's a frag grenade that is easily replenished at an ammo crate. And whenever we do the execute that restores a magazine, it restores our grenades. It is a huge, huge boon. I absolutely love the grenade launcher. And one thing I will say too, before I keep going on this, is all these weapons, they are not going to be good to start off with. Even this one, Mastercrafted with the grenade launcher, it's just not very strong. It will progress and be better, I promise. It will get better as you go along. The relic tier of everything is really good because it allows things to stagger. And don't look at these 2 and go, oh, well, this has got 2 plus firepower. This has got 4 plus firepower. Those numbers are only relative to that weapon's different variants. They're not relative and comparable. So a 4 plus with the bolt rifle is different than a 2 plus with the heavy bolt rifle. It's just a way to compare its different variants, not each weapon. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it. Keeping on here. We have all these other options, but we're just going to stick with the bolt rifle, bolt rifle with the grenade launcher. It's the upper right option all the time. That's what we'll be going with. And then over into relic tier, you guessed it, it's going to be the one with the grenade launcher. So we've gone over the versions. Now let's go over which one of these is going to be our, or how we're going to do the perk tree for this. So perks here for my grenade launcher, the way I like to approach this is going over at this one. For headshots, deal 10% more damage. This alternate perk, magazine size increases by 15% of maximum, is also very good. And I think when you start off, this is the route to take. Go with this one, then go with this one. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is restored by a full magazine. Take it until you get the perk that allows you to execute someone and restore a whole mag. Once you do that, then reset the perks and go through this top line because it just gives you more damage, and damage is going to be better for this rifle in the long run than the ammo. You just don't want to run out. It's going to piss you off. Then you're going to come to fast reload. Reload all weapons 10% faster. Maximum spread decreased by 10% because you will be shooting this thing very fast. After using a class ability, max spread decreases by 25%. So you auspex something and you're just going to be able to hit headshots way easier. Then I go down here for damage increases by 10% against terminus enemies. It's just to unlock this one. Max ammo reserve of this weapon is increased by 20%, which is, I believe, the one that makes it so that the amount of grenades you have goes from 7 to 9 or 10, something like that. So it gives you more grenades to shoot with the grenade launcher. Then shots will penetrate enemy block stance, dealing 25% of usual damage. After I've done that, I'm going to come up from this one to here. Killing an enemy restores armor 0.5 seconds earlier. It's just nice to have a little bit more armor. And then I'm going to come down here for after killing 10 enemies in rapid succession, you deal 25% more damage for 5 seconds. You launch a grenade into a swarm of gaunts, you're going to kill 10 pretty easily. And you can launch multiple grenades, so it's really easy to do. And then you get magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum. So we're stopping there. I have 3 perks I don't have access to, right? 1, 2, 3. That would go 1, 2, 3. The rest, in my opinion, aren't really worth it. Our next one here is the Melta rifle. And this one, honestly, just choose whatever one you want. I'm not going to lie. It's such a strong weapon that just any variant's going to be good. What I've been experimenting with here is just to increase damage and increase range. This just only gives me 1 more magazine capacity at Mastercrafted. So I'm leveling this up with a fully leveled tactical. So if you don't have a fully leveled tactical, I'd understand why you'd want to get 1 more shot out of it. But I'd rather just go with more range. It's doubling my range, right? So I'd rather have that range effectiveness. Into Artificer, we can go with 1 more range again and 1 more damage, or jump up with 2 more shots. At this point, I can find it kind of going both ways, be choosing between the more shots or increased range. But having that range increase is really nice because the downfall of the Melta rifle is its range. And if you have a higher level character, ammo is not going to be a bigger concern for you. It's going to be easy to get magazine capacity or ammo in general back through your perk situation. So I almost always recommend going with magazine capacity, but this is a situation where if your character has the perk set up for it, just stick with the better range and higher power. You might as well. And into Relic tier, we have the same situation. Just if you're not struggling for magazine capacity, go with the higher damage and higher range. You're going to go from 1 range to 4 range at max level. Stick with it. Conversely, though, you go back down to 1 range, have a lot more power and more ammo. So that's like your other alternative. I think this really comes down to you and what level you are. If you're a higher level, I say go with the power and the range. This is a 14 firepower with 4 range. Or if you're lower level, go with the higher magazine here. This is 14 firepower, but now has +3 to the capacity, which is very nice. The other option here is 1 more power for shit range and shit ammo. Screw that. if you're gonna increase something, you might as well be the what's it called? You might as well have the max ammo or the max range on this thing, right? The 14 versus 15 is not going to be enough to really make the difference. I'd rather have the range to be able to threaten into zoanthropes and into neurothropes, because those are the most annoying things when you're using a Melta rifle, is anything above you that you just cannot deal with. It is so frustrating, and you're going to have tons of ammo reserve anyway, so don't worry about it. Now for our perk tree, honestly, just go the entire top route. You could go with the bottom stuff if you want, but the top route gives you magazine size increase. When your health drops below, you get a full mag below 30%. Damage increase against 10% against Terminus. Damage increase. Mag increase by 15%. First shot after a reload deals 10% more. After a perfectly timed dodge, fire rate increases by 25%. And then lastly, fire rate increased by 10%. The entire top row is the way to go. You can go with these at the bottom. These are perfectly timed dodge, effective range increase, and effective range increase by 1. But I'd rather just go with overall more damage and magazine capacity. That entire top row is definitely how you should work the Melta rifle. And our last weapon here is the Plasma Incinerator. This is going to be great, especially if you're playing against any of the Chaos Marines. I think this one has extremely high effectiveness against them over the Melta, because you can lob in and just do a lot of good damage at range. The Melta requires you to be a lot closer, where that can get very punishing because of the way Zangor herds work. So it's going to be up to you and your playstyle between the rifle, the bolt rifle, the Melta rifle, and the Incinerator. But you can definitely see how a lot of these are going to have a bunch of different use cases based off of your playstyle. So remember, with this, you are using a plasma weapon, and plasma weapons mean that the amount of magazine capacity that is depleted depends on the charge. A max charge is, I think it's like 10, or no, that's the plasma pistol is 10. I think the Incinerator is like 5 or something. It's punishing. So you don't want to max charge every shot. Shooting basic charges of the Plasma Incinerator is okay. Just know that. And what we're going to focus on in these variants is magazine capacity and venting speed. Venting speed is, of course, the time in which it takes for the weapon to vent, but it's also the amount of shots you get in the weapon before it has to vent. So a higher venting speed allows you to get more shots before it overheats. Those are our two most important stats. Firepower is always going to go up from tier to tier. So our first one here, I would just jump here into the higher magazine. That's an extra set of charges here. It's one more venting speed. Screw it. Let's just jump up into a better magazine. Now, after that, this is going to depend a little bit on where your level is. Are you a higher level character? Then I actually would probably go with a higher venting speed here so that I can just keep going down range. Remember, you're going to be able to replenish your ammo so fast if you have a near max level tactical. Otherwise, go ammo capacity. If you're leveling up for the first time, go ammo capacity 100% of the time. And the same thing's going to be true here of the relic. If I've got a max level character, I want that high damage, I want that high venting speed. 130 is low on magazine capacity, but you'll be at near infinite ammo as it is. Then our other option is, of course, higher damage. So keep that in mind, right? We're going from, I'm sorry, I thought it was 5 to 6. 6, but we have a 30 magazine increase. So if you're going for the first time, go with that mag because you'll just get it back. You'll get the magazines back once you get to the higher level. That's when we're going to swap to the venting speed one. But in the meantime, just go with that. And for our perk tree, it's also going to be very easy. Just go down the bottom row because this gives us weapons cool faster. After killing 10 in rapid succession, you get more damage, which is very easy because this thing has splash damage, big splash damage. And this is going to get even easier as you level it up because we're going to energy reserve increase by 20%. That helps with our magazine capacity. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is restored by 25% of the max. So boom, that brings us up even more. So this perk plus your actual tactical perk, you will not run out of ammo. Your damage radius of charge shot is increased by 5%, helping out with this one, right? And then this one down here, weapon cools faster by 15%. It sounds like I said fatter, sorry. Now we're here to another increase in our charge shots. So we're a 10% increase to our charge shot damage radius, helping this one trigger for 25% extra damage. And guess what? Let's increase that again. After a perfectly timed dodge, the damage radius of a charge shot increases by 10%. And we'll go here into projectile speed of a charge shot is increased by 25%. And more charge shots from plasma weapons uses 2 less energy. That is the biggest one. And it's why we've gone down this route, because it makes it so that our ammo efficiency is much higher. And our last one, projectile speed of charge shots is increased by 25%. So our charge shots now shoot much faster. We get more efficiency out of them. It is overall a great approach. And just a real quick, honorable mention, it's the bolt carbine. I love the bolt carbine, and I love it in the DMR variant. So the bolt carbine, when you first get it, it's just a little SMG. You got a little SMG that it evolves to, but you can actually, you can give it a moonstone and it goes to this variant instead. I'm kidding. It's a bad Pokemon joke. But still, this variant, you can see it's a difference, right? My rate of fire drops. My damage goes up. My accuracy goes up. I have a scope. And I start to become like a DMR style of weapon. It's really, really cool. And then as you evolve this thing too, one of these has like an actual scope that it will use. So it's a really fun way to play with the bolt carbine. The bolt carbine itself is already really fun, and the nice thing here is once you level this up, you can level it up. You can use it on a sniper. So just wanted to give a quick honorable mention to this. So having gone over a lot of different things, range weapons, your perks, your melee weapon, even your secondary. What are some of these core rules to playing tactical? How should you approach it? What kind of gameplay should you expect out of this character? And tactical is a very run and gun style, just as far as you are an individual who can sit in the back line, the mid line, or right up close and personal. You've got a chainsword, you've got a bolt pistol. You can have a lot of fun kind of flexing to a lot of different roles as needed as per the engagements unfold. And I think that's really the strength here, right? We've talked about the bulwark before and how the bulwark is quite literally the bulwark of the party. You are the bastion that can heal everyone. You can hold the line. You've got your shield. But while the bulwark is doing that, you're able to dispense the Emperor's justice via bolt rifle the entire time. And that there's a huge boon to that, right? If you want, you can get up alongside your bulwark and go into melee, whatever the situation is. And that's something you really need to envision with this character, is it is a character that really fits into a lot of different roles within the party. If you want to be more close range, you would go with a Melta rifle. If you want to really deal with a lot of the heavier armor in the game, then a Plasma Incinerator is the go. But I think, honestly, just how you can play with the bolt rifle and the bolt pistol with the chainsword, it just gives you such an awesome flexibility. So with this, we're going to come down to kind of 3-4 big things about this class. The first one, though, is your Auspex. That is the biggest strength, your biggest boon. The way you're going to support the entire team outside of the raw damage you can do is amplifying their damage. So you want to make sure that your Auspex is up on high value targets as much as possible. And with that, you kind of need to know the map, right? You need to know what's coming up. Are you about to go deal with the Hive Tyrant? And okay, well, in that case, you want to make sure that your Auspex is good for it. Keep in mind too, anytime you use a drop pod and select the loadout, it will reset your character ability, your class ability. So use that as a chance to make sure that your Auspex is up. If you know you're coming up to a location with a drop pod, use your Auspex because you're about to just get it back. That's what I mean by have that map knowledge and know how to really get the most out of your Auspex uses so that you can really deal with a critical wave. You can help knock something out. And lastly too, when it comes to Auspex and timing things, you want to really be able to use it appropriately on, say, maps like Inferno, right? Where you've got to deal with the generators or the final swarm at the end. Decapitation, when you're dealing with that initial bomb planting moment. All the many times when you play this game, when you have to deal with kind of defending a hard point, taking a hard point, whatever it is, use that Auspex to your advantage to help your team deal with those waves that would otherwise just completely smash and put you down and out. That's huge because being able to take out 3 or 4 Tyranid warriors at a critical moment to give you some momentum, to give you some ability to push through those portions of the game is huge. And you as a tactical get to open that door whenever you want. Now, another big one too is using your grenades to help clear waves for trash, but also strategically, since you kind of have all this vision on the battlefield, right? You can see, you know, what's coming, what's flanking, what's going down. You have this capability to use your grenades far more tactically. You can use your cracks, your flaks, flak grenade. That's what it's called. The frag is the other one. Frag grenade. You can use your crack grenade. You can use your shock grenades to your best ability, but also the bolt rifle grenades. The rifles underneath the bolt rifle. They are so important. Those grenades are devastating, and you'll get them back whenever you go to execute a Majoris or higher every 30 seconds if you get that perk active. So make sure you're using them strategically on high value targets with the crack grenades. Like if you've got them, use them on your zone thropes, your neurothropes, any of the extremists or higher. Extremists or higher. Extremists and terminus, get those cracks on them. It's really going to help you out. Another big point too here is while you are great at ranged, know that you're also not even just like a little good at melee, you're super competent at melee. The chainsword is a really great weapon. It's a really great come-all. It does a great amount of single target damage, and you really need to learn how to utilize that chainsword to the best of your ability. Whenever people collapse on you, are you going to roll away to just start using more range damage? Are you going to use the double stomp of your chainsword through the perk unlocks we've talked about when the chainsword to give yourself some breathing room to throw a grenade out, to use the grenade underneath your bolt rifle after you've cleared a little bit of the wave to help yourself out? Or are you going to stick in that melee because that's what the situation calls for? So don't be afraid to throw yourself into melee, but realize that even though you're a great ranged combatant, you can really throw your weight in both directions and feel very competent on them. Also too, we talked a little bit about grenades, but I would encourage you to focus on getting crack grenades as much as you can, because if you're playing alone and you're with some randos, they might not know the real potency of crack grenades. If you throw a crack grenade at a zoanthrope, it will immediately, I called it a xenothrope earlier in this video, and I don't know why, a zoanthrope, it will immediately put it into execute. And that is a huge boon because those things can really tear up a really high, not really high, but like the level 3 and level 4 of Ruthless level of difficulty run. So playing tactical is all about being tactical, about realizing when to use that Auspex, realizing what tool is going to fit the job you're about to jump into. Are you jumping into a map that's going to have a ton of chaos, well, maybe it makes a lot more sense to go with that Plasma Incinerator. Are you going to be playing a map where it's got a little bit of both, or you maybe need to hold a little bit more of a hard point where the grenades are really going to help you out? Go with that Bolt Rifle. Maybe, you're playing with a heavy and a sniper. Well, fill that close range gap. Go get that Melta rifle. Be the person that's up close and personal with the Melta rifle and then jumps into melee as you need to. Tactical is all about realizing that you can fit into any role within the party. And I think that that is a really fun and a really cool gift to have from the Emperor himself. So flex around, figure out what kind of works for you and make it work. And I think that's the difference between the tactical guy we're talking about here versus my Bulwark guy. The Bulwark has a very set place in the party. The tactical can do a lot of it. So figure out for yourself how you want to socket yourself into the party. And maybe you think about, if you're playing with friends, how are they playing their characters? What choices are they making class-wise? Then you can kind of pivot around that. Maybe they're going with a Bulwark and an Assault. Well, cool. Hang back and shoot things to hell and back with a Plasma Incinerator or the Bolt Rifle. Or maybe, like I said, they're going the more range route. Or maybe they're going to go with a hybrid. You can flex around as needed. So hopefully this gives you a better idea on how to approach tactical. It's really about setting yourself up with the weapon that you feel the most confident in. I've told you the 3 that I feel the most confident in playing, and they're the ones I have the most critical knowledge to give you actual feedback on. I could lie to you and say like, oh, the Bolt Rifle's the best without any critical knowledge. And that's just not going to do you, it's going to do you a disservice. And it really comes down to your playstyle and how you like it. The nice thing is the tactical has viability across every single one of its weapons, with the bolt carbine being the one that's the weirdest one for how it operates. You really need to figure out the playstyle you're going to play with. So choose a ranged weapon and see if it plays with the way you like it. Swap out to another one next mission and figure it out to see which one is really going to click with you, and then get that one to the max level and push around as you see fit. So if you have any tips for playing tactical that you've experienced that really helped you out, like, hey, you know what? I went with this perk setup and it just changed the day for me. Or I stopped using the heavy bolt rifle and now I use the auto bolt rifle and here's why. Whatever it is, let it be known in the comment section below. Always down to get as much information out to people as possible. But thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.